Most people watched the Red Sowing and saw a desperate gamble that somehow paid off. A queen with dragons, but not enough riders. A chamber full of lowborn dragon seeds sent before Vermithor, where most were burned, crushed, or devoured. And from the chaos emerged Hugh Hammer, a King's Landing blacksmith with soot under his nails, who walked in as a nobody and walked out bonded to Vermithor, the second largest living dragon in the realm after Vhagar. A few call it the dragon's whim and believe Vermithor simply chose, the way dragons do, and it could have been anyone. Some call it blind courage rewarded, a brave man who stepped in front of the fire to save a stranger and got a dragon for his trouble. Some call it the war handing the blacks a miracle exactly when they needed one. But none of these are right. The sowing was never a lottery. Let me take you through it, because once you see what the sowing could actually recruit and who it was always going to choose, you cannot unsee what the show was really building. We'll start with the rule underneath all of it. You cannot simply walk up to a dragon and climb on. A dragon will burn an ordinary man to ash without a second thought. It's believed that the only people alive who have any hope of being chosen rather than killed are the ones who carry the blood of old Valyria in their veins, the blood of the dragon. That is the entire premise of the sowing. Rhaenyra is not gambling on courage. She is gambling on bloodlines, hunting the scattered base-born descendants of Targaryens, the only commoners with any hope of surviving a dragon-taming attempt. And the prize at the centre of it is Vermithor. This is not just any dragon. Vermithor is the Bronze Fury, and his history makes him the greatest unclaimed weapon in Westeros. He was the mount of Jaehaerys I, the Old King, the Conciliator, who held the Iron Throne for 55 years, longer than any Targaryen who ever lived. When Jaehaerys died, Vermithor didn't take another rider. He retreated into the heat of the dragon moat beneath Dragonstone and rested there, riderless, for the better part of 3 decades. Dragons never stop growing, so those years turned him into something truly formidable. So by the time of the dance, he is close to 100 years old, and the second largest living dragon after Vhagar. At the end of the first season, Daemon goes down into the dark and sings to him, coaxing the old beast back towards bearing a rider again. The most dangerous riderless dragon in the world has been awoken. The only question after season 1 is who climbs onto his back. Now here is the danger of the sowing that the blacks dismissed when they set up their audition process. Ask who actually answers a summons like this. Rhaenyra's call is, in plain terms, an invitation to walk within striking distance and very probably be burned alive. Who says yes to that? Not the comfortable, not the content, not anyone with a reason to stay home. The only people who volunteer to gamble their lives against a dragon are people with little to lose. Imagine being failed by the realm so completely that a 1 in 50 chance at a dragon looks better than the life you already have. These are the only people the sowing could ever recruit, the desperate. And a desperate man with dragon blood and a grievance against the crown is the single most dangerous thing this war could manufacture. Now remember all that as we take a look at how Hugh Hammer walked through each stage on the way to his date with Dragon Destiny. We meet him first in the throne room of the Red Keep with the newly crowned Aegon. Most people watched that scene and saw a tradesman with his hand out, a bit of texture, a glimpse of the small folk, while the real story happened among the lords. What you were actually looking at was a Valyrian-blooded man standing at the foot of the Iron Throne, asking the crown to keep its word, while he and his fellow smiths forged their scorpions. The great bolt throwers the Greens were raising across the city to shoot dragons out of the sky. The man who would one day ride one of the most powerful dragons in the world spent the opening of this war building weapons designed to kill them. He knew their range, their reach, exactly how men try to bring these creatures down. What's more, as a blacksmith, he spent his whole working life around heat and flame. Fire holds less terror for a man who shapes iron in it every day. Aegon promises him his coin, then the promise dies, forgotten after the murder of the king's infant son in that same episode. Then the war does its work on Hugh. His daughter falls ill, the price of food climbs in a city left starving by the Valyrian blockade, and by the 5th episode, The walls have closed in on him, both literally and figuratively. Aemond, ruling now as regent, seals King's Landing. In a modest house across the city, Hugh's daughter is burning with fever while his wife begs him to run. She wants to make for Tumbleton, where her brother has room. They do try to leave, but the gates shut in their faces. He has built the crowned scorpions and still hasn't been paid a copper. His child is dying. His city is starving. Every promise the Greens made him is worth nothing. None of this is background colour for the audience. Instead, it is showing the war methodically stripping a Valyrian-blooded man of every single reason to be loyal, and then locking him inside the city until the only thing left to do is gamble. Earlier in the episode, the impossible happens in front of everyone. The dragon Seasmoke chooses Adam of Hull, a base-born shipwright from the docks of Driftmark. Most people watched that and felt relief. Good news for the Blacks at last. What it also was proof. Hard, recent, undeniable proof that a lowborn nobody with the right blood can walk up to one of these creatures and live. The idea that only highborn Targaryens can ride dragons breaks just before Hugh tests it. Anyone watching Adam closely should have understood that the next seed to step forward might do exactly the same, and might not be nearly so grateful about it. Here's the part almost no one talks about. The seeds are often lumped together, dismissed as a scattering of nobodies with thinned-out, distant Valyrian blood. Hugh is nothing of the kind. On the eve of the sowing, grieving, he finally tells his wife the truth about his mother.
She used to tell me I was no different to her brother's boys, Viserys and Daemon.
This is the series all but telling us who Hugh's mother was. She was silver-haired, worked in a pleasure house, and told him he was no different from her brother's boys, Viserys and Daemon. Her brother, then, was Balon. Balon's sons were Viserys and Daemon, which means the show is pointing directly at one of Jaehaerys' daughters, almost certainly Rhaenyra Targaryen, Jaehaerys' disgraced daughter. If this is pointing where it seems to be pointing, this makes Hugh the grandson of the old king, the grandson of the last man who rode Vermithor. This is significant because it means the dragon did not pass to some far-flung trace of Targaryen blood. It returned to its dead rider's own grandson, a man just a single generation away from the throne. This is likely a man with a king's blood in his veins, building bolt throwers for scraps, watching his daughter die because the crown would not pay him. What nobody asked during all this, not the Greens who employed him, nor the Blacks about to arm him, was what a desperate man like this might do with a dragon when he finally had one beneath him. One person came close, and this is the part that should make the hair on your neck stand up. When Rhaenyra commits to the sowing, her own heir begs her not to. Jaehaerys then names the thing this whole video has been circling. He asks her what happens if one of her base-born, silver-haired dragon riders decides he wants to rule the Seven Kingdoms. He is not being a snob. He is describing the future. He is describing Hugh Hammer, silver-haired, dragon-blooded, about to claim the Bronze Fury, with uncanny precision, before it has happened. And Rhaenyra waves it off. With these riders, she tells him, she may take her rightful place on her father's throne. So Season 2 has Jaehaerys name the threat clearly in open court, but the Queen is too desperate in her own way to hear it. Which brings us to the moment. When the seeds are brought before him, Vermithor brings us a horrific display of his power. He burns them, scatters them, turns a hopeful crowd into a panic of running, screaming people. And in the middle of it, as seasoned men break and flee the flames, one man does not run. The blacksmith plants himself before the Bronze Fury and holds his ground in order to distract the dragon from another target. The dragon bends to him. In the moment, it plays as heroism, a brave man who steps into the fire and is rewarded for it. But watch what is really happening on that sand. This is not luck or courage. This is Rhaenyra's recruitment process doing its job. A man who does not fear fire, carrying the blood of the king who first tamed this dragon. A nobody becoming a somebody. The old king's grandson staring down his grandfather's dragon. Of every soul on that beach, Vermithor chose the one who was, in a sense, coming home. The claiming only looked random because everyone had already decided the man making it was no one. And here is where we need to look even more closely at the scene. The The Blacks thought they had just won the war. 3 dragons claimed in 2 episodes, Vermithor, Silverwing, and Sea Smoke all mounted, enough firepower to finally answer Vhagar. Rhaenyra's gambit had worked.
Let us raise an army of bastards.
But watch how the show frames its own triumph. The Sowing could only ever recruit the wronged and desperate, and the same grievances that drove Hugh Hammer to this point are the ones that should terrify the people handing him a dragon. The series is showing a man it has spent a whole season teaching to hate the crown, starved, lied to, locked inside a dying city, his child fading while the promise of pay turned to ash. It reveals he is likely no distant trace of Targaryen blood, but a grandson of the old king, with a claim that rivals the cousins now using him as fodder. The Blacks did not arm a loyal weapon. They handed the Bronze Fury to a desperate man with a king's blood and a mountain of reasons to resent them, and the show makes sure you feel the weight of what is now sitting in his hand. The Sowing is not staged as a definitive victory. The series hands the Blacks their greatest weapon and simultaneously shows you the man now holding it and tells you exactly why that should frighten you. Now that you see the Red Sowing differently, the next time you watch, you will not see a queen's lucky break, and you will not see a brave blacksmith earning his reward. You will see a triumph the show has rigged to unsettle you. What Season 3 does with all this remains to be seen. So tell me in the comments, who should have seen the danger in Hugh Hammer? Was it Aegon's court, who had him forging scorpions and sent him home unpaid? Or was it Rhaenyra, who treated a grandson of Jaehaerys as a body to be thrown at a dragon? And if you want more of these deep dives, make sure to subscribe. There are many more of these threads running through House of the Dragon, and we'll be untangling them all.